To begin, carefully review all warning and risk factors before starting the assembly of your 12,000 hydraulic lift. In this video, we will cover frame assembly instructions, installation instructions, operating instructions, storage and off-season suggestions. Frame assembly instructions. Fully read and understand each step before proceeding with that step. The following tools will be needed for assembling the lift: 2 9/16 inches wrenches, 2 3/4 inch wrenches, measuring tape, hammer, needle nose pliers, 4 cotter pins, drill with 7/16 inch bit. Install all 4 leg posts into foot pads. Secure using one 3/8 by 4 hex bolt and one 3/8 brass nut each place. Insert all 4 leg posts into leg pockets. At the desired height, insert one 1/2 by 4 hex bolt and secure with one 1/2 brass nut in each place. Attach one leg pocket to bottom beam in 4 places using 4 3/8 by 1 hex bolts and 4 3/8 brass nuts. Slide the lift side left and lift side right end channels onto the bottom beams. Position them so that bolt holes line up. Secure each lift side to one bottom beam with 6 3/8 by 5 hex bolts, 3 3/8 flat washers, and 6 3/8 brass nuts at each connection. Attach the I-beams to the proper lift sides using 2 5.5 inch pins for each I-beam. Insert one 5/32 by 1 1/2 cotter pin into each pin and bend with needle nose pliers. Pin the base of each hydraulic cylinder to the lift side ram mounts using one 6.0 pin and one 5/32 by 1 1/2 cotter pin in 6 places. Bend cotter pins with needle nose pliers after installation. Pin the top of each hydraulic cylinder to the I-beam ram mounts using one 4.5 pin and one 5/32 by 1 1/2 cotter pin in 6 places. Bend cotter pins with needle nose pliers after installation. Attach each rack side to I-beams using 2 5.5 pins and 2 5/32 by 1 1/2 cotter pins. Bend cotter pins with needle nose pliers after inserted. Slide each V-rack onto the rack sides. One 7/16 inch hole will need to be drilled in the rack side for each V-rack connector channel. Secure with one 3/8 by 4 bolt and one 3/8 brass nut in each place. Slide cradle pockets over V-racks and secure in place with 2 3/8 by 3 hex bolts and 2 3/8 hex nuts per cradle pocket. Insert the cradle legs into the cradle pockets and secure with one 3/8 by 2 1/4 hex bolt and one 3/8 hex nut per cradle leg. Adjust height of cradles to fit your application. Attach bunk brackets to rack sides with 2 3/8 by 4 hex bolts and 2 3/8 hex nuts per bunk bracket in detail B. Attach 2 bunk brackets to the rack sides and 2 bunk channels to the rear of rack sides using one 4.0 pin and 5/32 by 1 1/2 cotter pin per bunk bracket. Then attach bunks to the bunk channels and secure with one 1/2 by 4 hex bolt and one 1/2 hex nut in 8 places. Installation instructions. Situations will widely vary between installation sites. ShoreMaster recommends that your dealer or other trained boat lift installer train you and perform the initial installation. The following are guidelines or suggestions for installation. Measure the water depth of the position you want to locate the lift. Measurements should be taken at both the projected position of the end nearest shore and the end furthest from shore. Before installing, adjust lift legs so that the boat can float into position before raising, while still allowing a high enough position so that the boat can be fully raised up and out of the water. Carefully place the lift into position alongside the dock so that the hydraulic pump and operating controls can easily be set on the dock. Ask your dealer about a wheel caddy unit to allow your lift to be rolled into position. Lake and river bottoms can frequently be uneven. Ensure that your lift is level. Measure the distance from the top of the crossbeam to the water surface. The distance at each of the four corners of the lift should be within 2 inches of each other. If they are not, adjust the legs accordingly. After loading and operating the lift, proceed to the operating instructions. Remove the boat and recheck that the lift remains level. Operating instructions. Now that you have installed and leveled the lift, you are ready to raise your boat for the first time. Prior to use, see to it that anyone who may use the lift looks upon the unit not as a toy, but as a piece of heavy equipment that deserves your respect and good judgment. Before allowing anyone to operate the lift, be sure they fully understand the proper operating procedure. Do not exceed maximum capacity of the lift. Overloading may cause mechanical failure and serious personal injury. Do not allow anyone who is in the water within 6 feet of the lift. Do not allow anyone on, in, or under the lift while operating. When operating the lift, the following procedures must be adhered to. Be sure the cradles or bunks, sold separately, are positioned below the water surface so they will not interfere with the boat floating into position. Properly balance and center the boat on the lift prior to raising. The boat should be positioned with the center of gravity near the middle of the lift. For most rear-engine mounted boats, this requires you to position the boat mostly forward in the lift. Carefully bring the lift up until the bunks or cradles have secured the boat. Then, stop the lift and check to see that the bunks or cradles have automatically positioned themselves to the shape of the hull, as they are designed to do. If so, continue bringing the boat out of the water until it is about 1 foot above the surface. Stop the lift again and check the stability of the lift, particularly to see that it is fairly level and will not topple over. Finally, continue lifting the boat while paying close attention to the positioning of the lift until it is in the full upright and over-center position. After loading and operating the lift, remove the boat and recheck that the lift remains level. See Step 4 of the installation instructions previously discussed. If the lift is not level, the legs should be adjusted accordingly. Because the lift may settle and become unbalanced, the lift levelness should be rechecked 2 weeks after installation and periodically as needed. Storage and off-season suggestions. Be sure to prevent rainwater from accumulating in your boat if you plan to leave it on the lift for long-term storage. Rainwater accumulating in your bilge can quickly increase your gross weight over the lift capacity. Always adjust the lift's height to limit wave action against the hull. A moving boat because of wave action will damage the lift and can take the boat off of the lift. ShoreMaster recommends disconnecting the hydraulic box and storing it indoors for the winter, or if you are not planning to use the lift for prolonged periods. To do this, disconnect the hoses from your hydraulic box by using the quick disconnects and connect them together. This will ensure that the connecting hardware will remain clean. Booster charge your battery using a 10-amp charger at the beginning and the end of the season. A mid-season boost may be required for heavy use. Prior to performing a booster charge, see the battery tips section of the hydraulics box instructions, included with hydraulic box or available on the ShoreMaster website. If your waterway freezes during the winter, you will need to remove your lift as it can be damaged by ice flows. When storing the boat, the lift must be in the upright, over-center gravity lock position for maximum safety. The over-center position will prevent the boat from lowering if you experience a hydraulic leak or slippage. Your lift can be left in any position when not in use. without a boat on the lift. Although we do recommend leaving the lift in the up position to prevent the bunks from becoming slimy and to avoid creating a hidden underwater obstruction. Each spring and fall, inspect nuts and bolts for damage, wear, or loose connections. At the same time, inspect the frame and pivot points for unusual wear, damage, or bent parts. Tighten, repair, or replace parts as needed. ShoreMaster dealers usually offer service visits. Please contact your dealer if you are unable or unwilling to perform maintenance or service to the lift.